Welcome back to Straight Facts on Wednesday. I'm joined as ever by LB, and replacing Dan Potts today, who's unwell. He's unwell and can't be here. Is man like Egal. How are you both?
I'm doing good, man. How you guys doing?
Yeah, man. I'm. You know what? I was just saying to my chat there because I've just had a redirect on from my stream. But like, you know how everyone always goes like, "Oh, we need less football. There's too much football." Sorry, I'm the opposite me, man. Like January, City had 4 games. I need more football, man. Give me more football, honestly.
Bro, we haven't played for 9 days. It feels like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm the same. The only thing I don't want less football. I just want it spread out more over the course of the weekend. So I'd like a game Friday, early Saturday. I'd like it all spread out so that I can actually watch all the matches. What I don't like is when 2 or 3 games are on at the same time. It frustrates the living daylight. Like on Friday night, when you had Chelsea Villa and Liverpool City, how you got those 2 games, the best 2 ties on at the same time. That element winds me up. But yes, listen, I know that football players don't like the amount of games they're playing right now, but I love it, if I'm being honest with you. Big up everybody that's here. Please make sure your like buttons are hit and you're subscribing. Boys, I wanted to start off with Manchester United because obviously it's been announced that Marcus Rashford is now back and available in the first team squad. He's been disciplined internally. He was dropped for the game in the FA Cup. He's taken on board his punishment, is accepted that he was in the wrong and moved on from it. And the club are now saying he's available to play. He's available to be picked. There's an article I read today in the Daily Mail that it's very long headline, is Man United's men behaving badly after Marcus Rashford's sick day after a 12-hour tequila bender. Jadon Sancho calling the boss a liar, 2 legal sagas, and a Cristiano Ronaldo row. Is there a cultural issue? Is there a cultural issue for Ten Hag is the question of the headline. We know there's one. I don't think that's in question. But has this Rashford thing, LB, been handled correctly with him being allowed back so quickly, in your opinion?
Well, let's start off by saying they've handled it a lot better than Sancho, in my personal opinion, because that Sancho one was handled horrifically from Ten Hag, who actually put the club under a lot of pressure financially because, you know, once you have a player and there's been a bust up, like we had it with Cancelo, the selling club is just, they're not in any power position because you don't have any, you know, you want to, when you're selling a player, you kind of want the player to be important to the team, right? So then you can say, well, he's important to us, so we want this, we want that. But when you kind of make it known to the public that you've had a falling out and he's no longer going to play, then you kind of lose all that power. So Ten Hag did no favours with Man United about the Sancho deal. And I'm sure whoever was dealing with the finances at the time was just absolutely shaking the head when he heard him say what he said about Sancho. So step one, yes, 100%. He's handled this a lot better. I thought it was quite funny. I don't know if you've seen his interview when he was asked. I think it was in the game recently, and the interviewer was like, "What's going to happen with Rashford? Has he been dropped?" And he was just like, "It's an internal matter." And he said, "Will he be fined? Will he be dropped?" And he just said, "It's an internal matter." I thought that was really actually quite funny from Ten Hag, to be honest with you, because it was almost like he was making a point that he was that he's learned from these mistakes. The question is then, obviously, and I guess this is more for Man United fans because it's your club, not mine. Like, are you happy with the punishment? And I think that I understand there's a lot of United fans out there that are very frustrated at Rashford. They feel that he's on far too much money. They don't feel that he performs well enough on the pitch. Maybe even feel that sometimes he's a little bit lazy and lets the badge down, lets the shirt down, which I accept. And when I've watched United, I do see that. But obviously, when it's your own club, you sort of see it more because obviously you're more invested. From my point of view, the stance that I take on it, if I was a Manchester United fan, is he's been punished, he's been disciplined, he's kind of been publicly shamed because everyone kind of knows what's happened. Don't try not to make this a bigger deal than what it is. He's been punished. The club have done well. The manager's done the right thing. Try and move on from it. Just because your club is, and you just mentioned cultural issues, and you kind of laughed at it because everyone knows that there's cultural issues. That has been addressed in terms of the punishment. If it was me as a United fan, I'd just kind of be like, it's dealt with. He's been punished. He's been embarrassed in the press, on you know the power that YouTube channels have and social media creators have. Everyone's kind of cooked him. I'd kind of just be like, it's done with. Let it lie. In my personal opinion, because I just don't think it's healthy for Manchester United to making this worse than it is. From his point of view, though, yeah, he needs to sort his head out quick because There's a lot of United fans, I don't know your stance on this, Terry, that are just done with him. And I understand why they're done with him, because how many chances is he gonna get?
It's such an interesting and it's become a more complex situation because of the fans and player FC. So I agree with you. I thought the handling of Sancho's situation was horrendous. I understand I think what Ten Hag was going for. I think he was trying to publicly shock Sancho into being better across the board, but it backfired. And at the end of the day, you're judged by your actions. Then we were leaking information and making him eat with the kids. And I just thought to myself, it was handled horrendously, and Sancho was treated a bit appallingly, in my opinion. So it has been handled better. I think the frustration for me is the way I see people say it's double standards FC, or the manager's the hypocrite. And I think they're misunderstanding the term of hypocrite. He's learned from his mistakes and he isn't making the same mistake again. You can't then double beat him over the head and say, well, you're a hypocrite now. So, because if he hadn't have changed and done it again, you would say you're a fool, Ten Hag. You haven't learned from your mistakes, but yet he learns from his mistakes and we say you're being a hypocrite.
Correct.
It's almost, we're in a position sometimes, Man United fans, where we are making this into a bigger situation by not, my view is I would have banned him for another game or two. I think he should have had a longer absence from the first team. But the principle of how we've handled it, I think, is absolutely fair. I think you have to be a special type of hypocrite and spiteful, almost sociopath, to want Rashford to experience the same thing Sancho did, just because you got upset that Sancho went through what he did. That's not how I view the world. It isn't what I want to see. If I get mistreated, if I don't know, if I get mistreated by my local authority where I live, I don't want everybody else to be mistreated to make me feel better. I want nobody to go through my bad experiences. That's just how I kind of view the world. When it comes to Rashford, though, he has got to sort his head out. Now, I know he's had breakups. I know he's got problems off the pitch, and this can lead to mental health issues, and all of this needs to be taken seriously. But at the same time, if you're not in a position to play football, step away for a period of time. You can say he's injured, do whatever you've got to do, but you can't be out on 12-hour-long tequila laden bashes, having pictures taken in nightclubs with girls on your lap, pointing to your head, doing your celebration, and then calling in sick 12 hours later. Because it isn't just football fans, music fans wouldn't accept this. If you bought tickets to go watch your favorite artist, he went out on the lash on a Wednesday night, and then on Thursday he cancels your show, you're going to be fuming. And that's kind of how football fans feel. And it's only in football where we get told to not be harsh on the players. So I think Rashford has been rightfully dragged over the coals. Anybody that makes, again, I've seen certain Man United fans say the media have let him off the hook. I don't know what newspapers and articles they have been reading. If you look at the Daily Mail today as an example, you look at the Athletic this week, if you look at the tabloids we all hate, by the way, that the sort of Mirrors and the Suns, they've absolutely ripped him to pieces. So he's had all of that. But Man United fans have got to learn from this. We bemoaned and said, Sancho, we got it wrong. We were bad to him. And as you said, it damaged the financial side. But now we almost want to do that to Rashford. It's like, stop. You're the ones for me that are being the biggest hypocrites here. And I think we all play a part. So look, I am at my end of my tether with Rashford as well. And it isn't so much with his behavior, which I've condemned. I just think he's also a poster boy of our failed 10 years. And I would move him on from the football club now, irrespective, as a way of wiping the slate clean. I would cash in. We know PSG want him. I think PSG would pay us a pretty penny. I think they would pay his wages. They've been desperate for him for 4 or 5 years. He's still young enough to go there. Mbappe's leaving. If he's going to go, that's the fit. Move him on to PSG, cash in, and go from there. But what I am really upset about is Man United fans who have really shown their asses here. I think you can be annoyed that he hasn't had a longer ban from the first team, but begging and praying for the manager and the club to make the same mistakes with Rashford they made with Sancho. Again, as I say, I think you've got to be a very special type of spiteful sociopath to think like that. I really do. You are devoid of proper human emotions if that's how your brain works for me. I just can't fathom why you want Rashford and just move Rashford aside for a minute, because I get you might not like him. Why do you want the club being dragged through more turmoil? Like, fans should be trying their best for that. Sometimes you've got to call your club out. Sometimes you have to criticize your club. There are times when you say, all right, it's been done enough now. It's like when Sancho was in trouble. I criticized him for performances, and I criticized him when it turned out he weren't training hard enough. But as soon as everyone started turning on him, I was like, whoa, it's enough now. You're going too
But
far.
Harry, you know what it's like?
Keep attacking him every day. It's mad.
It's like the teacher's pet getting in trouble comparison to the guy who's been getting in trouble a couple times now. That's what people are comparing it to. It's not give him the same treatment. It's just you can see that one is getting a little bit more of an easier time than the other. That's what majority of people are saying. And when it comes to Marcus Rashford, now we need to talk about him as a player. Does he want to be a good player or does he want to be a great? What does he want? Because clearly, if he's not focused on his craft and he's going out, having nights out, not training, not taking it serious, people are going to start questioning him as a professional and how serious he actually wants to master his craft. He's still not gone and become this clear player where he can do a Ronaldinho and be out and then put a masterclass in the next night. He's still 25 years old. Yes, he's making clear money, but first things first is football. That's your profession. That's your bread and butter. If you're going out on nights out and doing all these madness, it can definitely hamper your career going forward. So he needs to focus on that, number one. And then when it comes to the Manchester United side of things, I think you guys handled it quite well. You learned from the Sancho situation, but the biggest thing to take away from this is let internal matters stay as internal matters. I think a lot of times, because you're one of the biggest clubs in the world, or one of the biggest clubs in England, of course, there's going to be they're gonna love the controversy, but as fans, you guys can't feed into it and make it worse than it is. It's already as bad as it is. As fans, you guys kind of need to support your players and need to kind of support them through tough times. And once those tough times come through, you then can look at it and say, come the end of the season, do we want this player around or are they more of a headache? And that's where I'm thinking Manchester United might be looking in the future. Is Rashford a part of your future or is he part of your problem? That's where you need to look at.
Yeah, look, I listen, I think there's a few things there to unpack. He isn't good enough to not focus on football as his main thing. He isn't Ronald. He is not the level of a Ronaldinho or an R9 or a Rooney where he can be a little bit distracted and still deliver. He has to be 100% focused. And when he was doing good things that were distracting him, taking on the MPs and fighting for feeding the underprivileged children in England, as honourable as that was, I felt that it took its toll upon him on the football pitch as well. He's a very good footballer when he's fully focused. As soon as his mind is elsewhere, he's going for a bad time, he falls off. And I think that's why the club needs to be very ruthless here and look at, can we find somebody that's as good, but also more consistent, especially when he goes through adversity in his personal life. I think that's a fair thing to look at. In terms of the treatment, though, the problem when you compare the situations of Jadon Sancho, Rashford, Ronaldo, is we're comparing apples and oranges. Still to this day, all Ten Hag actually said about Sancho is that he didn't train to the right standard, so he didn't pick him. Everything else has come out via leaks. However, that was to do with how hard he did or didn't apply himself in training. Rashford's situation is different. He went out drinking when he shouldn't have done. You could argue that's worse in some respects. But the difference between the two circumstances is that Rashford has appeared to have said sorry, held his hands up, taken blame, hasn't released statements about the football club. Again, as wrong as Ten Hag was to go public, Sancho's response equally wasn't right. Now, you get this response from people online when they go, well, I would have done the same thing. Yeah, and you'd have lost your job. If your boss today upsets you at work and you go onto social media and slag your company or slag your boss off, most of you will have signed agreements in your employment contract that state you can't do that. Sancho's behavior wasn't correct just because it makes you feel better. So because the scenarios, and Ronaldo's situation, Rashford hasn't gone on to Piers Morgan and ripped into the football club. Now, some of the things that Ronaldo said were right. But isn't it funny how we're now that Man United fans have gone from saying you shouldn't air up dirty linen in public to saying everything Ronaldo said was right? So what are you advocating, talking about internal problems publicly now, or are we not? This is the problem with this whole scenario. Everybody is picking and choosing what they want to see. Generally speaking, for me, 9 times out of 10, I want everything kept behind closed doors. When players are wrong, even if they feel that the club's handled it wrong, you handle those situations behind the scenes. So my problem with comparing these circumstances is they're all different. There's such different situations and scenarios and everything else going on. You can't just compare it to that. Now, I think Sancho is, as I said, I repeat it again, completely and utterly mistreated in the end by the football club. Both made mistakes. It was an absolute clusterfuck. The same as the Ronaldo situation as well. Should have been allowed to go in the summer. We kept him. They became a problem. But him sitting on a Piers Morgan interview to orchestrate and move away, even though he said some things I agree with about the training facilities, the Glazers, I agree with those things. that isn't the right way of going about it, in my personal opinion, because as soon as you start saying it's okay, the irony is, this is the way fans think. I don't like the manager giving people preferential treatment. At the same time, fans do the identical thing by saying, well, I love Ronaldo, so he can say it. I love Martial, so he can say it. But I hate Maguire, so he can't. That's literally echoing the same behavior they don't want to see at their football club. And this is why Mark Goldbridge called it out earlier. Fans like that are a big problem because it's almost like the club's being run in the same way that echoes the behavior of certain fans. And you want it to be kept behind closed doors as best you can. Sometimes you can't help it. If, like the Rashford thing,
until it suits your agenda.
The manager couldn't say nothing about it. The manager couldn't lie to us in that circumstance because we know he was out the night before because he was caught on camera. But yeah, I don't necessarily think that one thing this does show me above and beyond everything else is that Ineos have got a big job on their hands fixing the culture at Man United because it's absolutely broken.
Well, Terry, United need to become a boring football club, right? Manchester City are boring, yeah. We get no stories. The Cancelo thing was deaded within 24 hours. He was loaned out and there was very little thing. Man United, yeah, have literally just so much to talk about all the time because everything just gets leaked. Everything gets leaked. Yeah, it's ridiculous how much rubbish is out there. Man United needs to become boring. Yeah, Sancho brought the club into disrepute when he gave that contract, but that was because Ten Hag called him out. Now people will say, well, Ten Hag was right to call him out. Well, he wasn't right, was he? Because he brought your club into disrepute. Look at the mess that Manchester United were in because of what Ten Hag did. Ten Hag should have known the person that Sancho was. You know, I always mention this, but the guy went on strike at Manchester City at the age of like 17, 18 or something like that. The guy went AWOL. You know, apparently he turned up late all the time at Borussia Dortmund. You should know the players. That's part of your job as a manager. People like to credit Ferguson as being one of the best man managers of all time. You've got to know your players. And that was a mistake. Now, Manchester United have learned, Ten Hag has learned from that mistake. And as Terry says, you can't then say, oh, he's got preferential treatment. No, he's not got preferential treatment. He's learned from his mistake. What do you want him to do? Do you want him to do the same thing again with Rashford?
Well, this is what this comment here from Alex says. Rashford is being treated with favour. That attitude from the management is detrimental to his future. It seems like Ten Hag can't think properly with all due respect. Again, I have to disagree as well. I'm not happy with the punishment. I would have made it longer, but the handling of the situation has been fine. I can't. You can't say it's wrong to do what he did to Sancho and then say it's double standards from the manager.
So Alex, what do you want him to do? Do you want Ten Hag to come out tomorrow and be like, yeah, Rashford, absolutely ridiculous. We've had it confirmed. He was out partying all night. Absolute disgrace. This guy, rotten to the core. He's training with the under-21s. We ain't feeding him. Yeah, none of this kind of stuff. Looks like we did to Sancho. Yeah, is that what you want to? Is that what you? I mean, I think you're an Arsenal fan, so you probably do want that. To be fair, but like,
listen, there's agendas, bro, and I'm not saying Alex has an agenda, but there is certain parties that have agendas and that want Rashford to get treated similar to Jadon Sancho because they like Jadon Sancho, or they thought what Jadon Sancho had to go through was unfair and they want to see another player go through this. They just want a level of consistency, and then even then they're still criticized. So I just feel like it's criticized for criticized sake. I think this is better for your club. It's kind of blowing over quite quickly, and people are going on to the next thing. I don't know how this situation is being spoken about more than Kyle Walker's situation, in my opinion. That's even more crazy.
Well again, I do and I don't agree with that, and that's another thing. But when it comes to this circumstance, there's so many sociopaths out there that show themselves that they are somebody that we see it all the time with Raheem Sterling. I thought it was a disgrace the way the media treated Raheem Sterling. But you can tell a sociopath from what I would consider a normal human being. A normal human being says, I want Sancho, I want Raheem Sterling to be treated in the same way as I see Harry Kane being treated. They're both lovely lads. They both work hard, both family men. They should both be treated equally as well. That's what a normal person says. What a sociopath says is, I want Harry Kane to be treated as disgustingly bad as well. That, for me, is a warped way of viewing the world. You should want everybody's treatment to be elevated to the best possible, not everybody's dragged down to the worst. You start taking what you're saying through to the nth degree. You're an Arsenal fan, Alex. So Arteta makes a mistake tonight with a substitution. Do you not want him in the next game to not make that mistake again? Or do you want him to be consistent in that mistake so that he doesn't appear to have double standards or a hypocrite for not doing it It's crazy. Of course, you want people to learn from their mistakes. I don't understand that bit really. Some comments here. This one says, "Big up. We need to be boring again with no news." This is very, very true indeed.
Right.
Terry, why do fans need to be kept in the dark? I think LB called it right. Disrepute. Bringing the club into disrepute can hurt you financially. It can destabilize the dressing room. It can create even more pressure. It certainly creates division in the fan base and in the dressing room as well. And sometimes keeping things quiet is, what's the expression from World War II? And I think it still resonates now. Loose lips sink ships. It's as simple as that. For Rashford,
just quickly address that again. A quick point, right? Just give you an example. Cancelo last year, right? I'm bringing it back to my club because a similar situation happened with Cancelo, and clearly Cancelo and Pep Guardiola had a bit of an argument, a bust up, whatever, right? That was deaded in the media press conference. Pep Guardiola just said, "Yeah, nothing's happened. We just, he's just whatever. He's going." It was loaned out that January, and it was all quiet, right? Cancelo, I know for a fact, was very, very close with Bernardo Silva and Ruben Diaz. And at one point last year was actually living, I believe, with Bernardo Silva in the same apartment whilst he was trying to find like another accommodation. Now, what would have happened if Pep Guardiola would come out in a press conference and absolutely slagged off Cancelo? You don't know how that could have impacted Bernardo, who was one of our best players in the Champions League. Could he have started going, "Oh, that's my mate there. Why Ruben Diaz the same?" Because, and again, I think this applies to Man United actually more than other clubs, because we know that Man United's dressing room is very cliquey. Yeah, we know that there's a lot of cliques in that dressing room. You know what I mean? And for people that don't know what that means, it's just like different groups, and they're very tight knit groups, and they're not really like all together. They're all got the little pockets of friends. So that's for me. I get why, as a fan, you want to know what's going on. I wanted to know what Cancelo had done. I wanted to know what had happened here, because you don't want managers being disrespectful. You want to make sure the players playing for the badge and everything. But ultimately, it's not about that. It's about that your club is the most successful it can be. And if you have to be, as a fan, in the dark about what's going on for your club to move forward and progress, then that's what's going to happen. As a fan, you're not entitled to know everything that goes on in the dressing room.
Completely agree. Rio Ferdinand has come out and said in the last few days that when he was there, even when they were winning and at their best, some players were up to a madness. But it was all kept private. And again, if we were struggling and not winning, it may have come out, but it was kept private. If it would all been coming out, then you'd get fan outcry, media outcry, more pressure mounts up on the team, and it becomes more problematic. So I think keeping things behind closed doors is key. Amar says, Walker's situation is a private matter. Not in any way is this the same as Rashford's. I don't care who Walker shagged in his spare time. I'll be honest with you. I said this last night and I'll say it again. I don't understand the outrage football fans have towards football players that cheat on their partners. I have never once in my life understood the fascination, considering, by the way, when they're out drinking, which is detrimental to their athleticism, people say they're human. With all our players in our teams that have been done for drink driving and things like that, and no one cares. We've even had players, Premier League captains, go to prison for that type of behavior, and they're still considered legends. We've had footballers do mad things, illegal things. There's a Chelsea player that took a gun to training, an air gun, and shot a work experience kid in the face.
What?
Still a legend. Ashley Cole did that as an example. That got less airtime than him cheating on Cheryl Cole. I'm not saying it's right to cheat, but I don't understand. And honestly, I'm going to be honest with you now. I think about 80%, 90% of people that have moral outrage about that, I think they're just reflecting on their own lives because they've been cheated on. That's the only thing that makes any sense to me, because I don't understand. Like, everyone's outraged. I don't even know why Carl Walker's spoken about it. I don't
That's
get
what I was going to say.
He did a whole. It makes no sense. Who cares what he does in his private life?
Terry, he did a whole press conference, literally. So what people are going to speak about it? The man did a whole press conference. Why is he doing a whole press conference with the sun on top of everything else? That's the main reason why people are speaking about it. Nobody would have been even speaking about it anymore if he didn't go up there and do a whole interview, making himself look like the victim. People are more upset about how he spoke and more than what he actually said. And I just find that situation to be more interesting and more funny. Not funny, but like more headline news scandal that more people would talk about than Rashford's situation, in my opinion. I know Rashford's situation has more football.
Rashford's as well more like, important.
No, I think Rashford's situation is more involved in football, but Kyle Walker's situation is more headline news, tabloid, drag the guy.
But why do you want to speak about that more than you want to speak about Rashford, though?
No, it's not me. I'm just saying, I just think more people would connect to that. More people would be interested in that than a guy calling in sick. Let's be honest. Yes.
When you just call in sick, though, bro, you playing it down like he just had like sniffles and was like, sorry, mate, can't come in. The guy went on the piss for 12 hours and then refused to come to training because he was ill when they had a game against Newport in the cup. Come on, man, you're playing it down.
I'm not the morality police, but I'm pretty sure what Kyle Walker did is a little bit worse.
How is it?
Oh, bro.
How?
Yeah, you're talking from like a moral point of view. We're talking about football. It's a football terrace. We're talking about football, bro. That's what the whole point of the show is.
I'm talking about what is more of a scandal. That's what I'm talking about.
The thing is, I'm not interested in a.
Yeah, this is a fucking.
I'm not interested in a player cheating on his wife. Unless a player isn't turning up to training, unless he's missing games because he's in hotel rooms with other women, then it would matter. But I don't care what Kyle Walker, Wayne Rooney, Ozil, I'm throwing out names of players that I've seen in these whoever, it doesn't matter. I don't care what they're doing behind their wives' back. I've got zero interest. As long as they're not breaking the law, I wouldn't care less because I'm interested in what they're doing in football. With Rashford, what he's doing is impacting his football. That's why it matters for me. What Kyle Walker's done, I've got about as much interest in what Kyle Walker's done as I have following the lives of contestants on Love Island. For me, it's a complete and utter waste of humanity for a grown-up to waste their time on that. I don't care what any celebrity. Oh, did you hear Leonardo DiCaprio's got a new girlfriend? No, don't care. I mean,
which one is affecting somebody's performance more?
What do you mean?
Which one is probably affecting the person's performance more? If you want to tie it back to football.
Well, I think Kyle Walker's situation. You can't answer that. You can't answer. It's like
I think Kyle Walker's personal situation could definitely affect him more than Rashford.
He's been up to this no good for years, Kyle Walker. Him and City have done pretty well. Look, Ryan Giggs, right? When Ryan Giggs, I'm not saying what he was right. Ryan Giggs was sleeping with his brother's wife for a decade. The most decorated footballer in English football history. There is no correlation, in my opinion, between cheating on your wife and playing bad football. I'm not saying cheating on your wife is okay. I'm saying I don't care about it as someone talking about football. There is a correlation between staying up late at night, getting drunk out your head, not training properly, and not being focused. Because most professional athletes, coaches, nutritionists would tell you that's going to have a detrimental effect on how you perform week in, week out over a consistent period of time. So as I say, I'm not saying Kyle Walker's a nice guy. I'm not saying Ryan Giggs is a nice guy. But I'd be far more angry if a footballer at my club was caught drink driving than cheating on his wife. Because drink driving kills people. It kills and ruins lives to a level that most people don't understand. Yet drink driving seems to be acceptable. Even speeding in your car for me is a bigger smudge against your name than cheating on your missus. It really is. That's just my take anyway. But viewers, let us know what you think, what you feel. Go on, bro.
No, I think drunk driving is on a completely different level. That is like the worst of the worst, in my opinion. So I wouldn't compare it.
I think this is a business decision. Sancho's devalued the club because Ten Hag's comment. Same. Can't do that for Rashford as well. I agree, Jay. That's right. For Rashford, got dealt with by the club. Good enough for me, is what Ray has got to say. And Marcus is going through a quarter-life crisis, is what he's saying there. Yeah, something like that. It's crazy what's going on there. It's crazy. Moving on to another club that's seemingly obviously going to be going through it soon. Like Liverpool, top of the league. We know they're doing really, really well. But Alonso now outright, I'll put it up on the screen here. You can see is the outright favourite to become the new manager. He's 2-1 on with the bookmakers. Almiron is now moved from sixth choice to second in place. De Zerbi there, Pep Linders, Postecoglou still pretty high on that list at 14-1. But they're also scrambling at the minute, Liverpool. They're trying to get the likes of Michael Edwards back to come in and help them through this transitional period. Maybe some signs there that there are a few more cracks in this than maybe first appeared, Egal.
I think it's funny that you go back to Michael Edwards after he quit and you say, here's a pay rise, here's a better role, you can have it. You had him in your house. You had him already on the books. You let him quit. You let him resign or leave on good notice. And now you're asking him for a raise. Terry, any employer you've ever had that you wanted to leave, once you hand in your resignation, what do they say to you if they really need you? Oh, we'll give you a pay rise. We'll keep you. I feel like that's what Liverpool's trying to do now after he's been gone for a couple of years. I just think that's extremely silly. And I think because he's turned it down, there might have been something that we don't know about on an unharmonious end to him leaving Liverpool. Now, outside of the Michael Edwards situation, I think Alonso would be a great choice. I think Alonso would be a great story. Former player coming back, who's also doing good in Germany right now. He's one of the most young sought after managers. Real Madrid want him. Of course, Liverpool want him, and anybody else who's looking for a manager will probably be interested in Xabi Alonso. So quality manager coming in, and so far what he's doing at Leverkusen, he's shown quickly that he can improve a side. But Liverpool have a big job on their hands. They need to tie down players to a new contract. With the likes of Mo Salah could potentially leave, Van Dijk could potentially leave, Trent could potentially leave. Their whole backroom staff is leaving, not only Klopp. So they're going to have a new coaching staff from top to bottom, which is going to mean next year is going to be a huge transitional season for them. I don't think we're going to be seeing the same Liverpool that we've seen over the last couple of years that have been at the top of the table, challenging for leagues, Champions Leagues, and are one of the most competitive sides in the league. Because of all the turnover, it's not unrealistic to say that it's going to be a transitional year and their expectations are going to be a lot lower. And if they are up there competing at the top of the table, I'll be more surprised than if there wasn't a transitional year where they struggle. That's just me.
I think Alonso is obviously one of the problems that all clubs have at the moment. Yeah, and obviously the Arsenal fans who want rid of Arteta, and when Pep eventually leaves City, whenever that's going to be, is I mean, this is like a wider reflection on football itself. It's just who is there out there, man? Like honestly, we're actually sitting here, yeah, and saying Liverpool Football Club, one of the best teams over the last decade since they've had Klopp, and we're talking about a manager who's managed 60 odd games in first team football. Right, and this season, last season, I'm looking at his record from last season. Last season, it wasn't great. I know he took over after match day 9, so he didn't have the full season, but he had most of it. Didn't do that good. Drew 10, lost 10, won 17. So he's drawn and lost more than he won last year. This year, obviously, everyone will look at it and go, he's doing fantastic. But we are only halfway through the season. You know what I mean? So he's had a I would say, pretty poor to mediocre year last year in his first year in managerial football, like a proper first team. This year he's doing good, but we're only 6 months into the job. I mean, it just shows you where we are. Football, but like, who else is there out there? Like, could Liverpool try and get a Simeone? Could they try and get someone like that? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know what I don't know what Liverpool do. I think they've got a really difficult position, and I really don't think, by the way, Van Dijk's comments helped. I've had a bit of a dispute with some people on this. Some people think that he's trying to force the board to make and the owners to make sure that they invest in the summer. Right, that's all well and good, right? You could have done that behind closed doors. You could have also waited till the end of the season. I really think now was probably the worst time. Now, I know Liverpool fans will obviously try and defend it because they want to try and be positive, and rightly, I understand why, but I really don't think they were helpful comments. I really don't.
You think Liverpool are up there next year, guys? Be honest.
No,
I think it's too early right now to say. Depends on who they bring in and everything else. But on the Van Dijk thing, I think you're right. If we're going to sit here and say Ten Hag shouldn't be talking about certain things in public at this moment in time, where, by the way, there are still a lot of Liverpool fans that don't like how Liverpool have announced this mid-season in the current situation. For him to say that, it sends a really worrying message out there of, well, if we don't bring in the right replacement, so if we bring in a manager we all think is substandard and we don't commit to spend X amount of money, some of the stars that are currently there could leave. If you suddenly have a summer where Mo Salah and Van Dijk leave with the manager, and it means you've literally got to bring in, think of the replacements you need to replace those two individuals. You're looking at a really uphill battle. So I think you're right. I think Van Dijk should have kept that absolutely to himself. Should have said, I'm a Liverpool player. I've got a contract. I love it here. And leave it at that. Some kind of vague PR-based answer. Not what he came out with. I think it's the wrong way around. I also think Liverpool fans have got to calm down this season. I'm seeing too many of them tweet things and say things on podcasts. These players must deliver now for Klopp. Your players are used to you having their backs. They're not used to you talking about them and treating them like this. You're going to put too much pressure on them. But on next year, look, Alonso looks like a good option right now, but you're right, LB. What if they assign him now as their new manager and then he collapses and ends the season poorly and finishes 5th? As an example, Then you're bringing in someone that's just absolutely flopped with no real pedigree and background behind him. When you start looking at the list, though, I know you've got Simeone. I know who's out there, but he doesn't seem to be somebody that's looking to come to the Premier League. Like, who on that list genuinely do you look at and think that individual is going to come in and keep Liverpool up near the top? Or you can say it with your hand on your heart with a fair amount of certainty.
Nobody on that list, Terry, because I look at Liverpool job and I say to themselves, there's going to be a drop-off. There's going to be a massive drop-off next season. You bring in any of those names, you're not going to go and replace everything. You're not going to be able to go and replace a Van Dijk if he leaves. You're not going to be able to replicate what Liverpool have been able to do over the last couple of years. No matter who they bring in as the manager, they're going to have a massive transitional season. If they go and get Zidane, even, do you guys trust this Liverpool team, this Liverpool ownership, who didn't back Klopp fully at times when you needed to go and get that extra little bit, the extra signing to go and beat City, to go and get that extra couple, that extra defender, that extra midfielder that you needed at the time? You couldn't get it, and now you expect a new manager to come in and everything to just be the same? It's not going to be. In all due respect, I think Liverpool are going to drop down, and it's going to be Arsenal who take their space. Maybe you guys can joke about that, but I think we're the most prepared to take their spot. And Liverpool are going to have to not only cycle through this squad, I think they're going to have to rebuild completely eventually. I don't think this team.
I think you're wrong. And do you know why I think you're wrong, Egal? I think there will be a slight drop off because Jurgen Klopp's, in my opinion, the second best manager in the world, and they're not bringing in anybody as good as him. I don't think it helps with what Van Dijk has said. But we sit here, you sit here as an Arsenal fan talking about how your club has rebuilt its culture, rebuilt its structure. Would you agree? Which means if a club has truly done that properly, it means that a manager leaving shouldn't upset you drastically. Unless you're claiming that there is no structure at Liverpool and it is all predicated on the quality of Jurgen Klopp, and that over the last 9 years they haven't built a foundation, an ideology. They don't have a plethora of talents they know that are going to come in and replace the individuals that they've currently got. If you think that all the great work of the last 9 years is going to disappear with Jurgen Klopp, then fair enough, that's your opinion. But for me, I'm not saying they're going to be as good straight away, but I think this idea there's going to be this big drop-off and Liverpool go back to being a poorly run club with bad managers, bad signings, I don't necessarily think I think that's too far, because we've praised them for the last 5, 6, 7 years for building this brilliant structure that should surpass and live on beyond. The same as Man City. Man City will not be as good without Pep because he is the best in the world currently. But the idea that City will suddenly drop off without Pep and become an average team, equally with Arsenal, I think you guys have rebuilt a lot of stuff internally, great structure. If Arteta goes and a new manager comes in, I don't see you guys going backwards. If anything, I think you'd go further forward depending on who the manager was. So I get where you're coming from, but when you say a big drop-off, how far is a big drop-off in your opinion?
There's a lot of ifs, but the reality is Van Dijk is being rumored away. Salah's being rumored away. Those are the two of their biggest key players and two Liverpool legends at this point. Two of the best players to ever play in that position for them. If they were to lose them, it's going to be extremely difficult to replace them, let alone as they already have to replace Jurgen Klopp. You said what Jurgen Klopp built over the last couple of years, 9 years. A large part of that was down to Mikel Edwards and his team. If I'm not mistaken, Mikel Edwards left. His second in command has also resigned, if I'm not mistaken. And now Klopp is leaving and all his backroom staff is leaving. So their structure that built this winning team, Terry, is all out the door. So it's not hard to fathom that FSG maybe can get a replacement in to fix that in the future. But it took them how long to just get to this?
What's broken? So it's been built by those individuals. Mikel Edwards left a while ago. They nearly won a quad since he's left. So they didn't drop off when he went. I get they'll be that maybe they won't get a manager as good. I think that's a fair comment. But the structure's built, the infrastructure's in place. There are other people that have stepped into the shoes of Mikel Edwards since him, and Liverpool haven't fallen off. Like, I just don't see, when you say drastically fallen off, I don't know, like league position wise, what you think they're going to start coming fifth, sixth, seventh?
I think they're going to go from being a team that's competing for major trophies and the league to just being to a top 4 team. That's what I think.
Because that's a fair comment. I think that's a fair
I don't think you can say you cannot measure how much importance club's tactics and club's encouragement gives to these players on a week-to-week basis. and gets them set up correctly. When you have a special manager, you lose them, there's always a drop off. To think that Liverpool are just going to lose Jurgen Klopp, lose all these great backroom staff people, and there's not going to be a drop off from a team that's competing for the league every year to top four, I think is ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous to expect Liverpool next season to be challenging for the league.
Mm-hmm. I'm with him. I don't think Van Dijk will leave in the summer personally. I think he'll stay, but I think Salah, if the Saudis come in for him, I think that could be a very tempting offer for Liverpool, especially because he's got 1 year left on his deal. You're going to get a lot of money still. I think you're going to get over 100 million for him, so that could be a tempting offer. But I agree. I mean, you look at Jurgen Klopp. I think he's competed for the league. If you include this year, he's competed for the league 4 times out of his 8 years at the football club, so 50%. You got to accept that if Salah leaves, one of the best right wingers this country's ever seen, the goals and assists, they're going to lose that. You just said you think he's the second best manager in the world right now. You've got to imagine that they're going to get worse. So they're going to compete for the league less than 50% of the times.
So I can again, but this is what I wanted to. Egal's thoughts and opinion are not a problem. I was trying to understand the logic and how big a fall off is. I can understand them dropping back and being a team that competes for the top 4. But as you've said, out of four of the 8 seasons so far, that's what they've done. So that's in terms of where Liverpool have been over the last 9 years. Year 1, if they're only competing for the top 4, that isn't enough time period to go see. I told you they've dropped off and I'll never be back near the top. The new guy that comes in, Pep then suddenly leaves. That changes everything, because I don't think Pep's going to be here in 2 or 3 years' time. So suddenly, in a year's time, say Pep goes, then that changes the landscape altogether again, in my opinion, because that's another big leveler for everybody. As an example, I just don't
have to rebuild the squad, Terry, because Van Dijk is going to probably be leaving soon.
Okay.
Salah's going to probably be leaving soon.
Okay.
Alisson is how old? I don't know how much longer he's going to have. I think this window for Liverpool to win closes this year. For them,
Alisson Becker's 31. He's got years left.
Okay, maybe Alisson.
Granted, they've got to replace those two. But look at their midfield this year. One summer, that midfield is starting to look dangerous. It's got to add to it. Do you not think Liverpool are going to be able to replace Mo Salah and Van Dijk? Do you think that's impossible for them to do?
I don't think it's easy to replace Premier League legends. Let's realize how difficult it is to replace Premier League legends. You don't just go from you don't go from your best ever center back and just bring in your next best ever center back in your club's history. These things don't happen. They don't grow. These players come once in a generation.
Yeah, but I chill on Van Dijk, bro. I think you're speaking on Van Dijk too much. Yeah, I don't think Van Dijk.
I'm talking about Van Dijk, Salah together.
But when you say that, I get what you're saying about legend. But when you look at the average age of Liverpool squad, okay, it's only a year older than Arsenal's.
Okay, but then you look at their 2 best performing players, 3 best performing players, Alisson, Trent. You put Trent in there, so they're 4 best performing players. You got Salah, you got Trent, you got Van Dijk, and you got Alisson. Besides Trent and Alisson will probably stay. The other 2, I think they're going to probably be gone by the time this team is back competitive again. Because one, Salah looks like he's had numerous times where he's been linked to Saudi. I think he's going to end up in Saudi eventually. And with Van Dijk, we're already hearing rumors of him potentially going to Barcelona or going somewhere else. So
he's not going to go Barcelona, bro.
Hey,
I could see Van Dijk staying at Liverpool till he's 36, 37.
Dutch players have a connection to Barcelona that we don't know about. So we've seen it.
And they've also got a brain, man. And anyone worth after someone would not go to Barcelona.
Bernardo Silva wanted to leave to Barcelona. And you're the one of the best.
And he didn't go.
I know he didn't, but if he was offered today, he probably might go.
Well, he's not. It's a hypothetical situation.
I'm
I don't believe he's going to go to Barcelona.
My whole theory around Liverpool not being as competitive is I think the window of opportunity for Klopp and this team to capitalize is closing. And with Salah and Van Dijk's era at Liverpool coming close to an end, I think it's going to be difficult to replace those kind of players.
I think it's fair. Your comments are fair when you're speaking about Salah. I think your comments are fair because I think I would be surprised if he's still there next season. And you're right. He's a Premier League legend. He's got all these goals, assists. He's carried Liverpool. Yeah. But the point I'm making is I don't think you're right on Van Dijk. I think Van Dijk stays at Liverpool a lot longer than you think. I think he could stay there till he's 36.
I think he's the first one out the door.
Nah. Why are you so confident on that, man?
Because the reports coming out today, the way you don't come out of the blue saying that. That's a come get me plea from a certain big clubs. That's telling Bayern, come get me. I've done my job at Liverpool. These players are looking at the situation and they might be saying, what's next in my career? I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
I disagree. I think he's coming out. I think when he come out with them comments, I think the comments were directed towards the board. I think he was wrong to do that. But do I think that he actually wants?
You can do that behind closed doors. You don't have to do that out loud.
No, and I agree. I just said that before.
I think there's another side of this. Listen. There's logic behind what you're saying, Egal. There is. I look at this side of things as well, though. Some of these players are already Liverpool legends. But they say this is what I'd be trying to convince them to do to stay. You've obviously got to pay them right. But let's make the manager up. Say it is Alonso that comes in, and then he and you win another league title or another Champions League. And now you've done it as a Liverpool player under two managers. It's a different level of legendary status now, because some players are labelled with, as a manager, Pep was labelled for a while, wasn't he? You can only win the Champions League with Messi. As an example, there are players that you can only do it with Klopp, you can only do it in this system. You fell off without him. There is a motivation to stay as well and win again with this team. And Liverpool, by the way, are bigger than Jurgen Klopp. That Liverpool are not going to die and fall away just because Jurgen Klopp is going. They're going to bring in quality people that run the club. FSG are a driving force in why they've become so successful. Now, listen, Klopp was hugely influential, hugely important. I don't believe they're going to suddenly undo all those learns and go backwards and start acting like Hicks and Gillette. Although I think for a season or two, top four may be as good as they can get. Having said that, I keep hearing people say that Arsenal are in a top four race this year as well. I'm like, there's no top four race this year. There's just one race. It's a title race this year. It's quite nice. I want to play you guys a video, though. And this is Man United fans talking about Jurgen Klopp and his success and how they view it. I want to get your opinions on this. Viewers, take a little listen as well.
A new manager in the summer, or even if Ten Hag stays on, and he used to do at United what Klopp has done. So for the next 9 years, from next season onwards, we won one title, one Champions League, an FA Cup and a Carabao Cup.
Well, everything, because he's won everything.
But spaced over the 9 years, over the next 9 years, that's what we won, those 4 trophies.
I'd take that.
Would you?
Did you not fight the last 10 years? Of course, I'd take that.
I want more, mate. I do.
I love that. I absolutely love that. You wouldn't take that.
I'd take that.
So Jay there is saying that if he was promised now, it would be the maximum Man United would get in the next decade. One Champions League, one Premier League, one FA Cup, one League Cup. Even though we've been this bad for the last 10 years, he wouldn't accept that over the next 10 years. He still thinks that's too low a trophy haul for Man United, essentially saying that Klopp's done well, but he has underachieved. Like, what's your view on that, Egal?
He's trying to belittle Klopp by saying that. And in actual reality, if you got him and you told him, yo, your team could win another trophy or will be one step closer, and you worded it a different way, maybe he'd accept that. It's just, this whole thing is to just belittle Klopp. And I think a lot of people need to stop doing that, because Klopp is one of the 5 best managers in the Premier League's history, in my opinion. Like, just from the Premier League time. And when it comes to what this Manchester United fan's saying, you really are going to sit there and tell me a team that hasn't won a trophy since 2013. Like, if you told me that, I'm taking that Champions League. Forget about the league, just the Champions League alone, because we haven't won that. I'll take that in a heartbeat. I think he's just being salty at this point. And of course, Manchester United fans are going to be salty. But right now, in the state that Manchester United are in, to turn down, 5 trophies, Terry? That's ridiculous.
4.
4? He didn't count the Club World Cup or Super Cup either?
You don't know, so you can't. You say they're friendlies.
Yeah, true.
That's because you've never played him, bro. That's why.
This is true.
I was taking the piss out of Chelsea. But hey.
What's your take on that, LB? I know we sort of touched on that a little bit yesterday on the Top 6 show, but do you get where Jay's coming from there around? My view is, I think he views it as, if Man United in the next 10 years won that, we would still be called underachievers, so he wants more.
Yeah. So to me, Klopp, this conversation for me is pretty simple, right? Is Klopp one of the best managers we've seen in the Premier League? Yes. Are Liverpool one of the best teams we've seen in the Premier League? Yes. Did they all underachieve with the players that they have? Probably yes, because they did only win one Prem and one Champions League and then the domestic cups. Where I think he's probably been a little bit unfair is that it wasn't just they won one Prem and they won one Champs and that was it. They were involved, including this year, 4 title races. And I know people will go, oh, involved, like, great, you deserve to win. I get it. But, like, they were close. They lost the league by what, a point? Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like it wasn't like they had one freak season and then just, like, finished, like, mid-table. Like, they were involved. They got to 3 Champions League finals. So if you rephrase the question to him and say, okay, in the next 8 years at Manchester United, I'm not going to tell you what you're going to win, but you're going to get to 3 Champions League finals and be involved in 4 Premier League title races, like proper races. I'm not talking like third, I'm talking like proper title races. Would you take that and not tell him the outcome? Then I would imagine he'd probably say, yeah. If you rephrase the question a little bit, you're going to get a different answer. But the answer to the question is, yeah, Klopp probably looks back at his time and go, how did bloody hell did I win only 1 Premier, 1 Champions League? Well, one of the reasons is you faced Real Madrid twice in the Champions League finals. One of them, your keeper decided that he wasn't going to be a goalkeeper. Yeah, so that was a little bit unfortunate. Gareth Bale done an absolute madness. And then you've come up against the best team the Premier League's ever seen and one of the best teams that the world has ever seen in Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, I get you.
Second best in your opinion.
Second best.
Yeah, that's my opinion. If you rephrase the question to him and say, would you take 4 title races in the next 8 years and 3 Champions League finals? I'm pretty sure I know what answer you'll give then.
Yeah.
LB, would you take it yourself for City for the next 10 years?
Probably, yeah, because I don't think we'll have Pep Guardiola for the next 10 years.
I was about to say, yeah, without Pep, I think this is the thing. I get where Jay's coming from. With what we spend, with our wage bill, 4 trophies in the next 10 years. Yes, another Champions League. Yes, another Premier League. There is an argument. If you have faith in the new direction the club's going in, there is an argument to say, don't take that bet and let's roll the dice and see whether we get more. So if you're guaranteed those 4 in the next 10 years, but if you don't do that, you might win 3 league titles, 2 Champions Leagues, more trophies. I get taking the gamble. At the same time, with the competitiveness of the league, what is the likelihood and maybe things will change, but is there another manager in the world right now? We know it won't be Pep because he's gone. We know it won't be Klopp. Sorry, Pep won't manage another English club, nor will Klopp. Is there another manager that could genuinely take over Man United and make us dominate like Fergie did, like Paisley did, like Pep Guardiola has done? Maybe not. Maybe we're going to go through another decade like we had almost in the previous one up until Pep, where it's a different team winning the league every year. So maybe over a 10-year period, United might get 1, Liverpool might get 1, City might get 2, Arsenal might get 1, Chelsea might get 1 or 2. It might be spread like that. So, yeah, listen, I would probably take it. I'd probably take it based on where we are right now, the current lie of the land and everything else. But I also understand where Jay's coming from, that he wants... I do want more than that, by the way. In fact, in the next 10 years, I want 10 league titles and 10 Champions Leagues. It's not going to happen, but it's what I want. So, but I do agree. I think the whole thing, I get belittling Klopp. I get bantering Klopp. I understand people doing it. I probably should more as a Man United fan. I just find it difficult to join in with that kind of banter. I think it's so milked and overdone online now that I find it really difficult. I just find it a bit Magoo in a way. Like I don't like removing the context, but yeah, listen.
You don't even need to banter it though, Terry, because we all know that they only won 1 Champions League and 1 Prem. It's not like it's this thing that no one really knows. Like that is disappointing based off of the team that he had, but at the same time, like you say, you've got to apply the context. So you just said then you'd
with Fergie. So it's like with Fergie. I agree. Fergie won 2, lost 2 finals. They got the 4 finals. People always discount the fact, though, that in his early days at Man United, and also this impacted a lot of really good teams in the early days. There was European bans on English clubs, so they couldn't play to begin with. Then you had all the rules about how many of your foreign players could play in your team, as an example. So we had some games where we couldn't play our best players. All these things very much hindered Man United. Also, the early stages that Fergie went through, if you were coming second in your league, which you did, you weren't in the Champions League, where teams now can come 4th, improve over a summer, and then win the Champions League the next year. So the context must be applied. There were certain managers from the 60s, 70s, and the 80s where you had to win your league to get into the Champions League. And then it was harder to win your league the following year because you were playing in these 2 competitions. With a squad back then, it was like 13, 14 people in it. And you had to handle injuries in 2 games a week. But yet we removed that context and go, but this manager now in 2025 has done this. 2024, 25. And I think context is really key. So what I don't want to be when it comes to the banter with Klopp is a hypocrite by removing all context for him, but then applying it to my own club. Because I always find when it comes to football debates and arguments, I will never crap on a rival in a way that will shit on myself. So Liverpool fans did it a few years back when Pogba and Souness got into it. And Souness says, put your medals on the table to Pogba. And every Liverpool fan and his dog said, yeah, put your medals on the table. And then they all realized, I saw their faces as they said it, go, oh no, we've just absolutely gone and lost the Gerrard Scholes debate. In that instance, they lost it because instead of standing by their own standards and how they assess football, just for a cheap shot in the short term, they dropped it all. And I don't know, I just don't like to do it myself, but that's just me. Maybe I'm bored. I could just be seen as boring, really, but I'll take that on the chin. This year says, but Terry, they are not restricted by FFP or VAR, so your argument is moot. It's a really good point. There was no VAR and there was no FFP. However, you can look at it in two directions. Club owners didn't have the money to be able to spend in the same way that the billionaires that came into the game could. Therefore, the clubs were not at risk of going out of business in the same way because they were not drumming up unmanageable levels of debts, mainly on wage bills, as an example. So, yes, it's a moot point, but the type of investment coming into football and the cuts of debts being run up wasn't happening. So it kind of balances itself out. The VAR thing, look, VAR could have hurt a few teams. But if VAR existed, Man United would have knocked Porto out the Champions League the year that Jose won it. And I believe we would have gone on to win the thing. And listen, where would Jose's career be if he hadn't have won that Champions League that year? If he didn't have his famous knee slide at Old Trafford? So yes, I again, context works in absolutely both ways. Without VAR in the Champions League, Liverpool would have faced Manchester City, in my opinion.
The red card.
The year that Liverpool did. The year that Spurs did. Because without VAR, Spurs would have been knocked out of that Champions League. So Pep could have two now at Man City, but he doesn't. You know, City could have one less. Liverpool could have one less. I hear you, but it's horses for courses. It really is horses for courses. Fergie time. I got a little stat for you on Fergie time. Two things on Fergie time. First one, LB, during Fergie time, could you show me where the rule was written that only Man United could score?
I'm sure it was written somewhere.
Yeah. Second point I would make about Fergie time, they did the numbers when Fergie retired in the Premier League era. During Fergie's time in the league, 4 other clubs had more time added on per game than Man United did. So two like one big myth there that Fergie got more added time than anybody else.
What about goals in extra time?
I didn't show that stat. Well, that's not on us. That's just basically saying that it wasn't like Man United were given exponentially more added time than anybody else. And I always remember a Man United fan saying that to me when somebody was moaning about it. He went, but if we're drawing 1-1 and there's 5 minutes added on, the other team can go and win. And I'm like, and I never even thought about it from that point of view. Like, it always just felt when you played Man United and when there's time added on, we were going to be the only team that could win.
In 2024, Fergie would have got criticized for scoring goals in extra time and not winning it at 90 minutes.
Yeah, football's crazy. Fergie time, fact or fiction? We're going to go to this comment here. It is written somewhere. In fairness, the most 90 from the start of Premier League to the end, the team with the most amount of 90th minute plus winners was Liverpool on 24, Arsenal on 19, Chelsea on 18, Everton on 17, Man United on 16. So we only won 16 games with last minute winners. We're only 5th on that level. And we were the 5th it's on the Premier League's website, and we were only 5th on the level for most amount of time added on.
What year was the Arsenal one?
Well, the Arsenal's that's just overall from 1992 until Fergie retired. But like I say, there's loads of. It's a bit like the myth of not spending. When you show like Spurs fans, we can't spend like you. Like when you show Spurs fans how much is spent in the Premier League history, it's like you're up there with everyone. You're right up there with us all. You just misspent it, you morons. You've got to respect Fergie. That geezer coined the Fergie time. He did.
It's the media. I don't think he ever actually said it.
No, Fergie didn't say it. Like that's it. Yeah,
it was the whole. It was the whole. This.
Yeah.
That was the whole.
It's like Ancelotti's eyebrow. Same thing.
But do you know what Fergie did though? LB, how old are you? If you don't mind me asking, you're in your 20s, right?
29. Yeah.
So you may remember it. Egal, you might remember it. It wasn't even the watch. Do you guys remember his stopwatch? So what he started doing in the 90s, legitimately, he'd sit there. And when they used to say there's like 3 minutes of time, what he was doing in the game is he would stop it for all the breaks. And if they only had like 3 minutes on, it'd be like, it's 5 minutes. He used to keep a stopwatch and you'd see him, but it was so clever. It was just a great way of gaining that advantage for Man United as and when he could. It was, I don't even think he really did it properly. He just had it there for effect. He used to time it. He had a stopwatch. It was just brilliant.
I just remember him going like this a lot.
Yeah, he did. I remember his chewing gum as well. Yeah, love him. I miss Fergie, man. What a man. What a man. Yeah, what a man.
You see, this is what Liverpool fans are going to go through. They're going to go through a similar thing that you guys went through. They're going to lose a legend. This season's going to be like a celebration party, leaving party. And come next year, reality is going to hit. Everything I'm saying right now might sound harsh, but I think I'm being quite balanced.
You've got to make the right decisions, though, Egal. The problem with Man United is they made the wrong decisions. They appointed the wrong manager. They bought the wrong players. Yeah, and that's where
what makes you guys think? What makes you guys think that the people at Liverpool have gotten all these things right? Because they had two really good people in Mikel Edwards and Klopp. Outside of that, I don't know how many of the people that they had in the setup at Liverpool that are actually calling this cards.
Can I ask you a question though, right? Name me all the people at City that call the shots.
I feel like City have like
name me all the people at Bayern Munich that call the shots.
Bayern Munich, they change over a lot.
Okay, but this is the point. You shouldn't know who they are unless you're at their club. These guys that do a good job, they're always unknown. No one knew who Omar Barada was the other day. No one really. Now we all do because Man United have got him. Yeah, we only know, by the way, who Ed Woodward and co were because they were shit.
No, but
genuinely.
I'm looking at Liverpool structure, Terry, and I'm not looking at the same as Cities or Bayerns or Real Madrid's or, you know what I mean? I'm not looking at it in the same way of those structures because I feel like I've seen those structures have multiple different managers come in and still be successful.
But this is when we'll see whether Liverpool structure is successful or not. Moving on from that, it's a couple more talking points before the end of the show. We are going to get onto Manchester City soon, but I wanted to go on to Arsenal. Before we talk about tonight's game, there's obviously the Benzema news today. Chelsea have pulled out. There is still a chance for Arsenal to get involved. But there's been some controversy today, Egal, that it's been revealed that Kai Havertz is on £275,000 a week at your club, and Arsenal fans are unhappy about it.
I think Arsenal fans have a right to question Arteta's spending on Kai Havertz because the breakdown 65 million could have been used better. Kai Havertz he's only been here for half a season, but he hasn't pulled up trees. And if you look at the lifetime of his contract, 5-year contract will cost us 71.5 million. His transfer fee, 65k, that is 136 million pounds of the club's revenue spent on Kai Havertz in his lifetime of his contract. I feel like, in all honesty, I back the manager, but on this one, I'm still perplexed on what made him sign Kai Havertz. And I backed it when he did it. I'm like, maybe you can do something else with him, but I'm not really seeing much of an improvement. Maybe he needs the 55 games to play under a new manager before we see it, but it is quite concerning, Terry.
Yeah. This is what David Ornstein said today on the Athletic Football podcast. We'll just take a little listen.
He's on a high salary, sort of in the region, basic salary of £275,000 a week, which Arsenal sort of matched from what he was on at Chelsea. And that comes with some emphasis as well.
That amount of money, salary, transfer fee, bonuses as well. LB, they've got to be expecting big things from this Kai Havertz now, haven't they? When you know he's one of your biggest earners, one of the highest earners in world football, they have to expect big things from him, surely.
Yeah, but they're not going to get big things from him. They're not going to get, I don't even know. Like, well, what do you expect from him? I mean, we've all seen him play. So average player shouldn't be at Arsenal football. He shouldn't be at Arsenal Football Club. What's he doing there? This signing is just crazy. And we speak about it all the time, but we have to speak about it all the time because it could be what makes Arsenal not win the league. Because if you look at some of the other signings that got done this summer, the likes of Kudus, the James Maddisons, the Diabys at Villa, the Dokus, Arsenal could have had so much more with less. And at the end of the day, this signing, you know, I think if I was an Arsenal fan, yeah, and you don't win the league this year, I look at this and go, this it has to go for this for the signing alone. £275,000 a week, the highest paid player over Declan Rice. Are you crazy? Why is Declan Rice on this?
It is a crazy signing.
You now can't afford the likes. Benzema's available. The stats come out today. Again, I think it just proves a lot of Arsenal haters wrong. The stats come out and it shows highest creators in the league so far this league so far. Chances in open play has been Liverpool, 222. City and Arsenal joint second on 209 chances created during open play this year. You guys need a Karim Benzema. You've had a lot of half chances within that as well, and Benzema finishes some of them. The fact you guys, and it looks as though you and many other clubs are right sailing close to that sun of FFP. Now knowing there's been £130+ million investment into Kai Havertz, you're probably still going to make the Champions League. You could still go on a good Champions League run. But if you narrowly miss out on that, on winning the Premier League because of goals scored, it's just still going to hurt you, Egal.
Terry, this is probably one of the strangest pieces of recruitment in a long time. When we signed him, or when we were looking to sign him, I felt like a lot of people were talking themselves into it. But if your initial feelings is more than always right. My initial feelings when we signed Kai Havertz was I didn't want him. That's the reality. And now that we have him in house, at times I look at what he does, and it doesn't move me too much. So 100%, I feel like this is, in the short term, it looks like a mistake. In the long term, we'll have to find out and see if things can change, or if the player can change the way he plays, or if something can happen to change Kai Havertz. But he's one of our highest earners. That is a problem, because people are going to be looking around. Luckily, we tied everybody down to new contracts. But if you're Ben White, or if you're somebody else who's going to be coming up with a new contract soon, you're going to be looking at Kai Havertz and saying, I'm performing better than him. I need to get paid more than him. Mm-hmm. And that could potentially break our wage structure going forward. Mm-hmm. Now, what LB said about Arteta, I don't think Arteta is getting sacked over a transfer, bro. The reality is, similar to how...
It's not just over a transfer, though, bro. It's over the league.
The thing is, if Arteta doesn't win the league this year, or doesn't win the Champions League this year, they're not going to view it as, oh, it's a massive failure of this season. They're going to view it as his 4 years of where he got his new deal. He deserves a new deal based on the fact of, one, you look around the landscape of who's out there. You don't want to change a manager for just the sake of changing a manager. You're going to get into a carousel of changing managers forever, and you're not going to eventually find one. Number two, the structure is pretty much built around Arteta and Edu trying to find the recruitment, and we already have recruitment sorted for the summer. You don't want to now have recruitment sorted for the summer and then sack the manager. That messes up your summer recruitment already.
No. I disagree with that.
On top of that, I don't think this team is outside of the window of winning. Similar to how other teams, they're aging, they're older squads. We're only at the beginning of our window of opportunity to start capitalizing on this team. Now, I know you want to win right now. Everybody wants to win right now. But I'm not saying this team, you sack Arteta today and throw him out. You have to realize what we've done to get to this part, and we're still missing pieces. People are saying this squad is not good enough. You're missing a striker. You're missing that. But yet we should still sack Arteta because he can't win us the league.
But you're missing these players because he signed Havertz.
I agree with you there. Havertz was a mismanagement.
So it's his fault. It's his fault then if you don't win the league. Yes. You just said if you don't win the league,
but it's also his management that got us to this point in the first place. We would not be competing for the league right now without Arteta.
That's great, but then if he's making mistakes by signing the wrong players, he's got to hold that.
He needs to learn from that mistake and go forward, not make that mistake again.
But he's made the mistake lots of times. Listen, that Kivior's rubbish, Vieira's rubbish, Havertz is rubbish. That's £150 million up the Swannet. Why? Because he spent it on rubbish players. If you would have spent that on better players, if you would have spent that 150 million or whatever it is, 130 million on like Kudus's, on whoever, just better players, Maddison's. You know what I mean? You could have got Maddison and Kudus for less than 100 million quid, yeah, and you would have been much better than where you are now. He's bought bad players. So what do you let him keep signing players?
Every signing is a risk. Going into this signing, we all knew it was a bad signing. But the reality of the situation is Arsenal Football Club is not going to sack.
So you knew it was a bad signing as a fan, but he didn't as a manager, and you're saying that's fine.
I'm not saying it's fine. I'm not excusing it. I'm just merely saying that is not the reason why. That is not the reason why you get rid of a manager. That's not a reason why you get rid of your whole structure. That's not a reason why you throw out. You wouldn't
be getting rid of. Let me just say, I don't think you should be thinking about sacking Arteta today. However, you're not getting rid of your whole structure. You're getting rid of the coach. The structure remains.
I think the structure is built around Arteta. I don't think
if you're building a club structure around a manager in 2024, you should be panicking because that means No, that isn't the reality. Listen, my understanding is, through what I've read about Arsenal, is you're building a club structure that he helps to run, but it should live long beyond him. Imagine he spends £800 million on players, and then he does go to Barcelona. Say he does. Then it means you've got to spend another 800 million, dismantle a squad for a new manager to come in. No, what you're going to look to do in Arteta leaves is bring someone in that can get the best, that is not a match 100%, but is closely aligned in values, managerial skills, like the type of players the club has been signing. Otherwise, there's no point of a rebuild. Rebuilds only exist if it's something that's long-standing. Otherwise, it's just a new manager. You surely you can't be advocating building club philosophies around a manager. It's got to be built around a club philosophy that the manager adheres to, surely.
The reality of the situation is Edu, Arteta, Richard Garlick all work together, and I don't view any of them as the one calling the shots that would be sacking Arteta tomorrow. I think they're all very much on the same level. So if you're saying that's a worrying thing, I agree. I think it might be, because if Arteta does leave, that goes a big part of how we built our team and how we built our squad. Yeah, we're not building the squad in the way for Arsenal. I genuinely believe we're building the squad to suit Arteta's strengths as a manager and what he wants.
And I understand that, but then the point I'm making is, if Arteta left for whatever reason in the summer, you should be looking for a manager with a similar skill set. For instance,
come in.
Like when you recruit in normal life, like you've got a job and you've got a CV that matches that job. If you left, your company wouldn't be looking for somebody that was a bus driver. They'd be looking for somebody that has a similar CV to you and skills to you, so you're a match for that job, because it's got to be done in a particular way. That's what we should be asking for from our clubs. Not imagine going to Antonio Conte from Arteta, your club will fall apart because you built it to play a certain way. So, listen, I don't think that, I get what you're saying. I don't think the signings per se are exactly what's making him under pressure. What your manager does this season is important. How do you think you're going to get on tonight against Nottingham Forest? It is such a big and important game for you to win with Liverpool on Sunday. Beating Liverpool, I think, is a must-win anyway. That will be made much harder if you don't pick up 3 points tonight. How do you see yourselves getting on?
Terry, we have to beat them. We haven't beaten them. I don't know if you guys know. We played them 3 times away at Nottingham Forest since 2018. We've lost all 3. We have to beat these guys. We can't go to Nottingham Forest away and lose again. Every time I've seen us go to Nottingham Forest away in the last 8 years, we've lost. So try to get that monkey off our back today. Luckily, we have a bunch of our players in Gabriel Magalhaes, Declan Rice, who are going to be fit and available for this game. So that's not the worry that we were having in the before that. And I just think it depends on what type of midfield he goes with. Is he going to go with more of a controlling midfield away from home and put in a Jorginho, or is he going to go with the Kai Havertz? Is he going to have Martinelli coming off the bench with tired legs? I think it worked very well last game. It gave us a very good impact off the bench. Or is he going to maybe rest Jesus this game and start Martinelli and Trossard? Those are the only changes I think that would happen in the team. The rest of the team is going to be pretty much pick itself. And I'm confident we're going to win. I think our defense is going to be good. And we're going to keep a clean sheet. And I think we get out of there with 2 goals. So I'm going with a 2-0 Arsenal victory.
Fair do. Listen, you got to win tonight. I mean, I know we spoke about it yesterday. He'll be on the top 6, but has your mind changed at all? Do you think there could be any slip-ups tonight from the Gooners?
Well, there could be a slip-up. Egal's just put the case. Even though he's gone for a 2-0 win, he's just told us the case that they might slip up. I think Arsenal will get the job done tonight, however they do it, whether it's a big win or just to scrape it through. But Arsenal now are in they're in the must-win. Like, forget about performances. They're just in the must-win stage of the season, especially with the Liverpool game coming up, because for me, I think Arsenal have got to win the next 2 games. My genuine opinion is, if they don't win the next 2 games, I don't think they'll win the league. I think if they win the next 2 games, I think they're right in there, in fact, and I think they'll start getting the chests out, because I think they'll get confidence, especially if they beat Liverpool. So the challenge is there. When you're a team going for the Prem, you're going for the Champions League, you get set the challenges, and it's your team. You've got to overcome it. And listen, Arsenal have had a big setback over the last month or so with some poor results. They've got to put it right now, because there probably was a little bit of an overreaction at the time when they went through that bit of poor form. It was, because obviously they are still right in the title race, but they have to win the next 2 games. It's quite simple for me. Fail to win the next 2 games, Arsenal are at the title race.
LB, we're not thinking about the Liverpool game right now. Just Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, no. But I'm just saying.
I feel like as a club and as a fan base, we look ahead way too much. There's a little. I'm speaking about myself here. Immaturity when it comes to being in a title race. Immaturity when it comes to thinking about how the season's going to go, writing people off, going too quick. And last season we were too emotional. This season we need to just take it game by game, relax, calm down, chill. Because I feel like at times we can get ahead of ourselves, and I don't want that to happen.
I feel like your club was very emotional last year. You know what I mean? We've seen all the sort of, and you kind of got mocked for it. And maybe rightly so, because I don't think it helped. But like when you kept on doing all the huddles and all the emotional cries on the pitch by players, I actually don't think that helps. I think what you need is calm heads. If you concede a goal, you don't need to do a huddle and have a conversation. You just need to trust that your team. I'm not trying to banter you. I'm being genuinely serious. If you go 1-0 down tonight, I think the last thing I'd want to see from my players is a huddle and come on, we're gonna do it. It's like, no, we're a better team. If we perform to our best abilities, we'll win the game. That's as simple as it should be. So listen, let's see how it goes. But yeah, this next week I guess for City as well, for everyone really. You just got to keep winning at the moment until someone slips up.
Yeah, so crazy. It's going to be an amazing week. Some super chats here that says Mikel Arteta clearly out the dead wood to bring in more dead wood. Another year has been thrown away. Change his system, so we are back to phase 1.
That's harsh, Jerome. We're not in phase 1. We're challenging for the league. We're one or two players away from having a complete squad that everybody rates. So let's not do that.
Terry, please ask Egal about his Madrid Arsenal combined 11 with 9 Arsenal players. Only Jude and Vinicius Jr. get in, according to him.
Actually, that's been updated, but we'll talk about that another day.
I love you, Egal. Egal waffle. Arteta won't win shit with Pep around.
Hey, we'll find out. I could be right. You could be right. Pep could leave, and it could be the Arteta era.
Studio Hooks here says, let's not be reactionary. Havertz could go on to play a pivotal role in our season, is what Studio Hooks says.
Yeah, but we have to react. We have to react to the signing. We have to react to the player, and fundamentally, I don't think this is a good player. Now, you're right; it could go on to be a pivotal role. But you've got to say, what are the chances of him being a pivotal role?
I want to hear from Studio. How good do you think Havertz could be? Who would you compare him to? Because I don't know what comparison would there be for the best.
Well, some of your fan base was saying Kaká, bro. So he could be right, Studio Hooks, if that's true.
I've heard Kaká and I've heard Bergkamp, and that's why I'm like, why even use those two legends of the game? You just play it down, man. Like, you're better off saying Lee Cattermole. At least he's better than him. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, don't do Bergkamp or Kaká. Is there a shortage of top-class British coaches, and is this a reflection on managers, how they are learning their trade?
Not even just British, just top-class. Eliminate British from that super chat, Cash. Who are the top-class managers?
Arteta.
He's not a top-class manager.
No, I'm saying up-and-coming managers. Xavi Alonso, Arteta. Who else? Nagelsmann.
Ten Hag.
Ten Hag's 54.
Bro, you can't say Arteta, bro. That's not the question. He says, is there a shortage of top-class coaches? You can't put Arteta. Yeah, there you go. That's
I think there is right now. I think there is overall. I really, really do. Speaking of madnesses, I read an article today that says that Manchester City could be banned from next year's Champions League. Are you worried about this scenario coming to fruition, Lou? Because it's crazy. A lot of people are bigging up Girona, but the rules currently state that if they win La Liga and you don't win the Premier League, City will not be able to compete in the Champions League because 42% of their club is owned by the City Group.
Tell them.
Yeah, I don't know like how this is going to work. You know what I mean? I don't know whether City could sell Girona. I don't know. Like, surely, I mean, we're just getting banned from everything at the moment, lads. having a great 10 years. No, listen.
Somehow,
I would imagine that like when the club bought 42% of Girona, that they must have had like plans in place where if this happens, like,
it has to be.
But then again, would you imagine Girona winning La Liga? Like, would you even plan for that? I mean, surely, like, you as a business owner, you would plan for that. But like, because it sounds so outrageous, maybe you wouldn't plan for it. I don't know. Like, how many people thought Girona could win the league this year? Like, no one. Well,
Surely they must have believed they could get a top 4 early, or like in Champions League spots.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the situation is. You'd have to imagine that City, City have looked at this and are fine with it and believe that it could be okay. I don't know. I don't know though. I don't know, because no one would have imagined Girona get top 4. So I don't know.
It's an interesting, because when obviously Man United, I mean, we're not going to be in the Champions League, but obviously we have the situation with Nice, with Ineos coming in, and obviously Ineos and Sir Jim are our majority. They are Man United's highest shareholder with 25%. No one individual has more than them. The City Football Group own 47% of Girona, and then somebody called Marcelo, I think it's pronounced Cluol, owns 35%, and then there's the Girona Football Group 16%, and then others, which is also Pep Guardiola's brother, is a part owner as well, which makes it all a little bit more. I was going to say incestuous, but that's probably not the right term for it. But there's a lot going on there, and I read the story and just thought. There's some poetic, with the way UEFA have been talking about you recently. I really can imagine them being sticklers with you, though. Does that make sense? I can really imagine them going, do you know what? We're going to stick by this rule. But the article, though, has a really interesting phrase. It says, indeed, if Girona win the Liga and City lose the Premier League, sister club Girona may be able to stop Guardiola's team from playing in the Europe's Premier competition next term. I don't know how Girona fans are feeling about this, but that reads to me, that's only my interpretation of that sentence in the article, is Girona may have to go, we concede our position. Imagine you're a Girona fan and you get into that Champions League and they say, yeah, well, let City have it. Which, again, maybe I'm talking out of turn here.
Imagine the champion of La Liga not being allowed into the Champions League because
even what's more harsh? City coming second in the Prem and not being allowed in, or Girona creating history by winning La Liga and then City taking their place? Like what?
Oh yeah, obviously it would be Girona
City taking their place, of course.
Yeah,
interesting one.
Listen, I don't know. I doubt this is going to happen, man. Like, even if it does, I just don't believe that City wouldn't have had a look at that. And there's a couple people in the chat saying
City's going to probably find a loophole, but the sheer possibility of this now opens the door for other things. What happens with Chelsea, with Strasbourg? What happens with you with the club that's connected to Manchester United? Does that mean you can't have two teams that are owned by similar owners that are actually league title winners in their respective leagues?
I don't know.
Some people are saying it's got to be more than 51%. Again, send me a link for that, people. I want to read more. This article doesn't go into that detail. Both teams win the league. The team with the most coefficients goes in. So if you both win, then even then, though, if you both win and they can't play in the Champions League, listen, it's funny if City don't get to go into it from a rival point of view. But if Girona are not allowed to play in it after winning the Liga, that's harsh. I'll tell you one of their players I do like. Who's the winger with the pink hair?
Are you talking about Yankuto, the defender, but plays like a winger?
Is that who it is? Again, someone told me he's a winger. I only saw some clips of him the other day. I've got to watch a bit more Girona. Someone just sent me some footage of him the other day. He's the guy with the pink hair?
Yeah, I'm sure Yankuto has pink hair. Yeah, it's Yankuto. He's a right back, but he actually plays like a winger.
Right. Well, yeah, the clips I've seen were him attacking. He is special.
Yeah. I was speaking to some guy.
Pep Guardiola's brother works for them.
Yeah, he does.
He owns them. He's a part owner.
He's part owner. You can go one further. There we go. Yeah, look at his looking writing that down, aren't you, for your list? Yeah, no, this Yankuto guy, he's been spoke about like the next Cafu and that. But yeah, he's balls into the box and mad. He's actually a City player. We owned him. We loaned him.
Yeah.
So do you guys own every player on Girona, or how?
No. It's not like that. It's not like that.
Well,
they have all.
Technically, couldn't you buy like all of them for like cheap?
Well, I'm sure.
How does this work? Like, because I always thought it was dodgy when RB Leipzig and RB Salzburg have this handshake agreement that they get all the Salzburg players for cheap.
Yeah, it's not dodgy. It's just good. So this has existed in football for a long time. So let's be fair to Man City here. Clubs always used to have feeder clubs where there was like an agreement in place between them, where Man United always had it with Sporting Lisbon. We had one with Antwerp. So you'd be able to loan your players to them very easily. But you also had like a first refusal on individuals that you wanted to go and buy. Oh yeah, so it shows him here as a right back, but can play. I'm just actually searching here. He looks quality at 21 years of age. But so is he gone to them permanently, or is he still a City player?
He's still a City player.
Oh, God, you guys, listen. Ready-made replacement there for Kyle Walker.
I just don't know if he can defend because I've never seen him really defend.
Yeah, this is true. I was just looking at his look at him on Sofa Score, just not for his stats, for his heat maps. Again, his heat maps are just that of a winger, bruv. That's why, again, I've watched limited stuff of him play, and I've seen some good clips of him, read about him, read some little bits about him online. I thought he was a forward with the way I always see him attacking, and his heat maps, he spends 70% of the time in the opponent's half. It's crazy.
I tell you what, have you seen Mikel left back? He's fantastic. I think he's absolutely Rolls Royce player. Apparently, Real Madrid have a buyback clause on him. But Miguel, who's a left back, he's fantastic. Savio, who probably most people have heard of, he's a winger. He's begging to join City. He says it every week.
This is what's really interesting with what they've done here. Just looking at this from the outside in, they haven't spent mega money, even though they're owned by Man City. But let's have it right. They have used their connections. They have used the infrastructure that City have built to bring in on loan and to sign high quality players at a fairly cheap level. And I'm not slagging that off. I'm saying that's absolutely these elements. There's a part of me as a football fan that doesn't want Man City to be guilty because I want to be able to use them as an example of this is how you run a footballing group because they have bought into clubs. And this way, what you can do if you're Man City, and I'm sure you've got this tied up, Miguel might be on loan, so it might be a buyback option. But if they keep him, if Girona start producing players like Salzburg do, it gives you guys a legitimate feeder club to develop players and bring them into you, man. It's crazy. It really, but again, the Man United fan in me hopes you're guilty just so that none of this comes to fruition because it's ridiculous. They've got so many good players in this team and what they're doing in La Liga is crazy. But it's what I'm really interested to see is whether the City group, if they win, invest more money into them and pushes them to grow. Because
I think they have to. I think they have to because if they don't, then it's kind of like, well, what we're here for. You know what I mean? So I would imagine that they probably will. I think they'll get raided anyway because some of them players are not going to be at Girona next year. Miguel, no chance. Yankuto, no chance. Savio, no chance. Maybe even Dobfrick, the striker, probably not.
But that's my point. It's like City Group, though. If again, they could bankroll this and say, no, we're going to turn down any offers and we're going to pay you guys the going rates that the big clubs are offering. We want you to stay at Girona. We want to turn Girona into La Liga's version of City. You know, that's... Again, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. The
But
fact
then won't that cost them? The Champions League spots, the potential.
Look,
I
think
go into the legalities of it, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Listen, my view on it, my genuine view, all banter aside, is RB Leipzig and RB Salzburg. You can tell they're from the same branding, but the way their ownership structure is done, they're allowed to compete in the same competitions. So I'm sure City, even if it's doing it now. You know, I'll give you an example. Everybody thought up until his arrest that Joe Lewis was still the owner of Spurs, but he had himself taken off of their official documentation a long time ago, before this trial's going ahead. I'm sure they've got it structured in a way where it's like it's seen as separate, if that makes sense. I'm sure they've done something. When you've got the lawyers and the money they've got, there's got to be a way around it. But yeah, it's crazy what they're doing over there in Spain. Again, I need to probably watch a few more of their. I watched their game against Ati a few weeks back where I think it was 3-3 into the last minute and the goal. Oh, I watched that game. Absolutely scintillating stuff.
They're a fantastic side, man. They're honestly a really fantastic side.
Crazy what they're doing. It's crazy. It's crazy. The few little super chats here. Arsenal have got a rap problem. Is what the Arsenal
the
Arsenal exterminator. That's so funny. Girona may be forced to finish second. Wink, wink. Maybe. Terry, isn't Mason Mount on the same money at United? Yeah, and we've condemned it. No, I don't know what he's on. I need to go and check. Can't be a top class manager if never won a league. It's a fair point.
You can be up and coming manager if you never won a league.
Well, that's literally what you are, isn't it? That's what you are.
Yeah,
that's what you are. If I could have similar output to RVP. You think Havertx could have similar output to RVP?
No.
Never.
Studio hooks, man. What is that, bro? Oh, dear me.
I swear serious? RVP used to score like 30 plus goals. Like, that's not happening.
Let's look at RVP's best return for Arsenal and United, of course. RVP. Let's do a little search here. Oh, I miss this guy so much.
Oh my God, no!
Let's have a little look here. So look, yeah, this is him at Arsenal, like when he started playing regularly. 20, 10, 22, 37. Then at Man United, 30, 18. Look, if you think he can hit 37 goals, listen, Stuart Hooks, I know we're going to get you on the match reaction later, studio, for the Arsenal game, so we'll be getting you on later. That is a big, big call, my friend. Look, I want to thank everybody that's tuned into the show today. It means a great, great deal to us. It truly, truly does. If you haven't checked out the members page yet, go and check it out. We've put some pictures up of our brand new London-based studio that we will be streaming from and making content from very, very soon. So go and check that out. Until next time, look after yourselves. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you at full time of the Forest versus Arsenal.